All right, the longest elevator ride of Troy Aikman's life is now complete. Once again, we have a 6-member class of the 2006 Pro Football Hall of Fame to be enshrined this summer in Canton, Ohio. And it is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you, after 12 seasons in the National Football League, a man who holds or ties 47 different passing records in the illustrious history of the Dallas Cowboys. Pleased to introduce as a future Hall of Famer for sure, Troy Aikman.
Stand by, Kira. Troy Aikman making his way towards the podium. Getting well wishes along the way, of course.
I'm going to ask Troy to say a few words. Troy, come on up here.
Well, wow. It's, you know, I've been asked about the Hall of Fame now for several months. And, you know, at the time that I retired 5 years ago, occasionally people would bring it up and refuse to talk about it, or whatever the possibilities were that I may one day end up as an inductee into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And then over the last month or so, I've been forced to address it a little bit more. And, you know, I've made it real clear. Every time I've been asked about it, I was always reluctant to even go into it or discuss it, because I really felt that anything that I could say about the Hall of Fame would take away from all those great players that were a part of the Hall of Fame already. I just think it's such a select group of players. To even have any inclination that it's something that may happen for yourself, I think really takes away from the accomplishments of those players that are always in it, that are already in it. So, you know, I've always been very, very hesitant about even having discussions about that all week long. Every interview that I did, I was asked about it. I will tell you, I've made no bones about it that if this were to happen, and now that it has, it's the greatest individual athletic achievement that's ever happened in my life. And when I start thinking about all the great players, not only that are in the Hall of Fame, but all the great players that have played this game, you know, over the history of it, to be considered one of those players that made an impact, or somehow, some way, you know, help define the game itself. It's a very humbling experience. I know there's a lot of people here that'll get their opportunities to speak, so I certainly don't want to drag this thing out. But having said that, I think there are certain people that deserve to be recognized because of what they meant to my career. I've had times where I've had people say, well, you know, Troy was really fortunate because he played with a lot of great players, and I've never denied that. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find any quarterback in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that didn't play with great players. And so, you know, when you start talking about guys like Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin and Jay Novacek and Nate Newton and Mark Stepnoski and Larry Allen and you know, the list goes on and on. Charles Haley on the defensive side of the ball, Darren Woodson, Kenny Norton. There's no question we were a talented football team, and all of those players played an instrumental role in me being able to have a level of success. And also, along with that, I've been always very, very blessed throughout my athletic career, not just in Dallas, not just in college, but even going back to when I was a young boy starting out for the first time. I was fortunate in that I had great coaching, and I always make a point of talking about coaching, because I think that those guys are so instrumental in the development of players. Sometimes those guys, and I know a lot of times it's fathers that are the ones doing the coaching, but so many times those coaches that are coaching the 8, 9, 10-year-olds, they have a bigger impact on the lives of these athletes than what the coaches do after you get into junior high or high school, college, certainly at the professional level. But I would like to name a few. I'd like to personally recognize Terry Donahue, who was my college coach at UCLA, and the impact that he made on me, not only athletically, but also I really feel like he helped me grow as a man, during the time that I was there. And then once moving on to Dallas, Jimmy Johnson was a guy who was instrumental in not only my success, but also our team's success. We were a struggling football team initially when I joined the Dallas Cowboys, but because of his ability to evaluate good players, he set a tempo and a tone for our organization that allowed us to go on to win back-to-back world championships. And I think in a large extent, he was responsible for us even going on and having won our third Super Bowl. And also along the lines of coaches, Norv Turner, someone who came in, we were last in the National Football League offensively. In my second year, my third year, Norv Turner comes out of nowhere, a guy who had never been an offensive coordinator at the professional level. We went from last in the league in offense to ninth in the league in offense, and made the playoffs for the first time in a number of years in franchise history. And then the next 2 years, we won world championships. Following him was Ernie Zampese, another offensive mind that I was able to learn a great deal from. We had other head coaches that came through, during my career that had their own impacts on me for various reasons. But I don't want to turn this into a retirement speech. I was criticized in my last retirement speech that it went for an hour and a half, which was about an hour and 15 minutes longer than what it was supposed to be. And I said, I'm not going to do that here today. I would lastly like to acknowledge the Jones family. And I was Jerry Jones's first pick when he bought the Dallas Cowboys. And it's always meant a lot to me. I came in at that time when that change was being made within the organization, with Jerry Jones taking over as the owner, Jimmy Johnson coming in, as the head coach, and to be always associated with that period of time, and then also to always be known as the first player chosen once Jerry Jones took over as owner, obviously a very meaningful thing for me. And I've often said that as a quarterback, which is certainly the case for me, it's why I'm here. I know that. I was able to win 3 world championships over the span of 12 years. And the best thing that any quarterback, I should say, that has any aspirations to being successful and winning a world championship, you've got to have an owner who's willing to spend the money and do what it takes to win. There are a lot of owners in this league. I may be out of line in saying this. This is my personal belief. I think there are a lot of owners in this league that talk about winning, but they don't do what is necessary in order to win. I think there are a handful of guys that do that and do it very well. Jerry Jones happens to be one of them. And for a quarterback to be given the privilege to play for someone that is important to, it was nice for me going to bed every night knowing we were doing everything that we could to win football games. So I'm very appreciative of Jerry Jones and the Jones family and what they've meant to my entire career. With that, I'd be happy to. I'm not exactly sure what the format is here that we're having, but if this is the time to answer questions, I'll be happy to do that. Rich, if it's not, then run me off. Okay, I guess it's not. So, lastly, I would like to say this. I would like to thank it's my understanding there were 39 voters that were locked up in a room all day long and made this decision. So I would like to thank all 39 of those, even those that may not have voted for me. I thank you as well. But very meaningful for me, and I can't even begin to tell you how appreciative I am and what a great honor this is for me. So thank you very much.